So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining me on the call for carers. And I'm Debra Sofia Magdalene, and today I'm delighted to be sharing with you my 7 steps to happiness. And I actually came up with these 7 steps when I was on a bus journey going down to London. And I thought, I've got a 5-hour journey ahead, and how can I make productive use of my time? And so what I did is I got a paper and pencil, and I just thought, I know, I'll write a keynote speech. What do I want to write about? And how to be happy, because that's what everybody wants at the end of the day. You know, happiness. What makes us happy, and and I thought about that, and I thought, what are the things that have worked in my life, and the things that I've learned that I can put together in a certain way and pass that on to other people. So this is where it came from. And at the time, I was the director of Hugs for Global Hugs, which was my limited company. And this is like my logo, and my 7 steps are sort of in here. And what I do is I created a mind map, so that all the little things that I wanted to bring into the different sections. So I'll be referring to this because it's my memory jogger. So what I'd like you to do is all start off just with a deep breath. Right, and nice deep breath in, and just go, and just let it all out, and just feel your body relaxing. So just deep breath in and tense everything up, and then and out again, and again, deep breath in, tense everything up, and then out. Just focus on your breath. And what I want you to do is just be very mindful, and all the worries of the day or the week or the year, just let them drift away, and just be in this space with us right now, being fully present, because that's how you'll get the most out of this next hour that we've got together. So what I'd like you to do is set an intention. What do you want to get from this talk for you personally? If you've got note paper and pad, maybe jot something down. What do you want to get? Because I'm going to be covering several concepts, and even if you just take one of those away with you, you'll benefit from it. So it's good to make notes, and you can come back and watch this as a recording as well. So the first step, number 1, is that happiness comes from within. It's not something that's relying on anything external. Money does not bring us happiness. I know that. I used to do coaching with business owners, chief execs, people from all walks of life. Some of them were rich and they were unhappy. Money does not buy you happiness. And a lot of us say, oh, I'll be happy when I've got that house. I'll be happy when I've got that car. I'll be happy when I find that perfect partner. I'll be happy when my house is all decorated and I'm not cluttered up. Do you know what I mean? So we have all these excuses that are stopping us from being happy in the moment. But happiness isn't anything external. It's something deep within us, and it's something that we actually choose. It's a decision that we make to either be happy or not be happy. So I invite you today to choose happiness. That's a choice that any one of you can make in any moment. I want you to realise that life isn't about being a victim. It's about being a creator of our own reality. And we do that through certain things. And my number 2, step 2 in my 7 steps to happiness is about letting go. So step 1 is happiness comes from within. Step 2 is letting go. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so we start off life, and we start off as these babies that come in with pure unconditional love and everything. And what happens is, over time, things happen to us. Things happen to everybody in life. It's we're in the school of life. It's how we all learn, how we all grow. And if we were happy all the time, we wouldn't learn our life lessons, because it's like a roller coaster. Have you noticed that? You know, life's a roller coaster, and we're on that up and down cycle. And the thing about that is that you can't experience the highs without experiencing the lows. It's like you can't experience what hot is without knowing what cold is. It's about having contrast and polarities. So in order to experience happiness, we've got to experience the other extremes of sadness. And that's part of life's journey. But what happens is that, you know, sometimes we hold on to things that have happened to us, and everything's story, everything is perception, and we perceive things in a certain way. So somebody might say something to us and we take it personally, and you know, we take it as criticism, or we make up a story as to what's going on around that person and why they're doing this to us, right? But we've got to realise that it's our choice over how we feel about anything. We can choose to look at it from many, many different perspectives. And some people have got a selected past, because you can get some people who the same thing happens to them. So if you take like a redundancy situation in a factory, for example, this redundancy is happening to lots and lots of people. And some people will look at it as an opportunity. Oh, wow, I've got an opportunity to do something different with my life. What have I always wanted to do? What can I go forward and do from now? But then another person is looking at it very, very differently and going into fear and, oh my God, this is my income. This is, you know, all I know. It's scary out there in the world. And so they've got a very, very different story that's running on in the mind. But that situation, you know, they might keep hold of that and put it in the sack and think, oh, you know, this is a terrible event that's happened. And so that goes in the sack and it becomes a burden. Another thing that might happen is you might have a friend and you've had an argument with them. The friend might have upset you. And so then you're saying, oh my, you know, like she's done this to me and I'm not going to forget that. I'm going to remember that. That's going in the sack because I might need that one again to throw back in her face one day. Has everybody ever done that? I know I have. And we put all these burdens in the sack that's going on with us all throughout our life. And over time, this sack of burdens gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And it weighs us down. And it makes us ill. Because the thing is that, like, if we can't let go of the things that have happened to us in life, who's it harming? Who is it harming? It's not her harming the other person, it's her harming us, because it's us that's carrying that burden around. So instead of having a selective past and looking at all the bad things that have happened to us in life, why don't we look at creating a future that is going to fuel us and that's going to drive us and that's going to be a creation that is going to bring us happiness, because we can all do that. So I invite you to empty your sacks. Thank the burdens for the lessons, because there's lessons in everything. Anything that ever happens to us is purely a mirror being reflected back to us from the universe as to what's going on. So if we're in blame, looking at somebody else, what we need to do is look in that mirror up there, and we say, okay, what's this situation showing me? Use other people as mirrors to see what's going on for you, because we do projection, and projection is where we're putting our own fears and our own perceptions onto other people. So when we're pointing the finger of blame, there's always three fingers pointing back at us. You know, we've got this, haven't we, going on? Three fingers are pointing back at us. So that's number 2, let go. And I do the actions as well. I didn't do this on the first course I did, but you know, when I'm doing this sometimes for groups, I'll do the actions because it helps to remember them. So step number 3 is watch your words. And why do I say that? And it's because your words create emotion. It's like energy in motion. Emotion, words. And what I normally do to demonstrate this is I go around a room and I'll say, how are you? So Coulson, how are you? Shirin, how are you? Dorothy, how are you? Parveen, how are you? The rest of the people on this call, how are you? How do you respond when somebody says, how are you? A lot of people say, I'm okay, I'm fine. Yeah, I used to say that. Do you know what I say now? Do you know what? I'm really good. Oh, I'm awesome. Oh, I feel so good today. Now, that feels very different to me than if somebody says, how are you? And I just say, fine. Okay, I'm okay, because it becomes like a standard response. But how often are we being honest with ourselves about how we truly feel? And if I'm having a bad day, I'm honest about it. I said, you know, I'm having actually a bad day today, but yesterday I felt great, and tomorrow I know I'll feel better. So it's not about denying your emotions, it's about owning them. But think about the words that you're using, because the words that you use create your reality. So I want to talk to you about, how do you talk to yourself? What are the words that you say to yourself on a regular basis? I want you to think about that and just write them down. I know I used to beat myself up and it was like, oh, I'm too fat. Oh, I've got a really bad memory. That's like giving myself an instruction, by the way. Oh, I'll never learn this. Oh, I'll never be able to do this. Oh, when are things going to turn out all right for me? And, you know, and I'm being very self-critical. And I'm beating myself up about, I should have handled that better, or, you know, I could have done that so differently. And I've got all this regret going on. So have a think about your self-talk. What do you say to yourself on a regular basis? And are you being kind to yourself? Are you being compassionate with yourself? Or if you talked to your best friend the way that you talk to yourself, how often? Or would that friend still be your best friend? That's the question. If you talk to your best friend the way that you talk to yourself, would they still be your best friend? And if the answer to that's no, well, then you know that you need to do some work on yourself to change your self-talk. Because this is all about loving yourself and accepting yourself. And it's absolutely crucial to do that. So instead of beating yourself up about doing things wrong, start praising yourself for things that you do right, and know that we're all work in progress. I used to beat myself up for like my parenting skills, because nobody teaches you how to be a parent, do they? You know, and like I ended up, you know, I've got a son and a daughter, and I had all sorts of challenges bringing them up, and I didn't know how to cope with this. And I made mistakes, and I used to beat myself up. And like, if I'd have known then what I know now, things would have been very different. So instead of beating myself up about it, I just draw a line under it and said, you know what, that was part of my journey, and it was also part of my children's journey, a learning curve. And what we can do is heal situations, and we can change things going forward. So it's not about having regrets, it's about doing the inner work and realizing that, you know, we're all these beautiful beings doing the best that we know how in the moment. And everybody's like that. I don't believe that, you know, a lot of the people that we know that are making mistakes are doing it on purpose. Maybe it's just that they've not got the right skills or the right knowledge or the right role models. And, you know, people do things because they don't feel good about themselves. So watching your words is something that you can change. Be conscious about the words that you use, write them down and change your vocabulary to change the results that you're getting. And you can do this by asking yourself power questions to focus yourself. So a power question might be, what have I got to be grateful for in my life right now? What have I got to be happy about in my life right now? You know, how many people do we know that are in situations where they've no home, they've no food, they're living out on the streets, or they're refugees, they're not even in their own country and they're like outcast? How many people are worse off than us in health terms? So when we count our blessings, it helps us to have a different perception about our own circumstances. And we realise that actually, when we're looking at ourselves compared to everybody else, we're pretty well off. And then we look at emotional intelligence. I know, like, I used to do supported lodgings with a Blackburn charity called Child Action Northwest. And, you know, young people would come and live with me for up to 2 years. And some of them were brilliant, and others had real sorts of emotional issues. And they'd have 1 minute they were okay, and the next minute they'd be really angry. So they're going from neutral to angry, and this is about emotional intelligence. And in order to be emotionally intelligent, what we can do is increase our vocabulary to give us more stages. So instead of going from neutral to angry, we're thinking, okay, how do I choose to feel about this? Am I knocked about this? Am I niggled about this? Am I annoyed? Am I pissed off about this, right? You know, these are, excuse me for swearing, but you know, there's when people are going into these states, they get very, very angry, and they go into a rage, and then they don't know how to calm down. So when we can teach emotional intelligence, and we're putting all the stages in between, and then getting them to choose the response that warrants that response. It's like, sometimes it's appropriate to be angry, but sometimes it's very inappropriate. But if we're choosing to be angry, let's make it a choice and not a reaction, because when we're reactionary, that's us not being in control. That's the other person being in control. My daughter was really good she was my best teacher, right? So I was learning to neutralize all my triggers. And my daughter was one of the last ones who could push my buttons and really sort of, you know, make me react rather than me choosing my response. And so I look at her as my ascended master, you know, because she taught me those lessons. And so now I never react to situations. It's an area that I've mastered. I always choose my response. And instead of reacting, I'll do nothing, and I'll take a deep breath, and I'll pause. And sometimes I choose not to do anything and just hold things in the tension and let them resolve naturally. That's really powerful. Not feeling the need to resolve that tension. And that can be uncomfortable for other people, and it can also be uncomfortable for ourselves, but it's one of the areas that we get a lot of growth. So that's step number 3, about watching your words, and realize that every word is an element of creation. Everything's sound frequency in the universe. And so when we utter a sound, it creates geometry, which creates form. And this is how, you know, it's like proven by quantum physics, how things come into form. So be very, very careful and choose your words wisely. So I'll go on to step 4. So step 4 is physiology and focus. Again, physiology and focus. Okay, so what do I mean by physiology? Your physiology is how you hold your body, how you carry yourself, how you breathe. One of the fastest ways to change your emotional state is to change your physiology and change your breathing. Changing your focus is another quick way to change how you're feeling. Are you focusing on the bad things that have happened or the good things that have happened? I'll give you a little example. I do a lot of traveling. I'm a house and pet sitter. I'm a nomad. I don't have my own house. I travel a lot and I visit lots and lots of places. I was in Glastonbury, and I was in the Magdalene Chapel in Glastonbury, where I love to go and meditate. And a lady came in and she started to have a fully blown panic attack. And I could see that she was distressed, and I just said, would you like some assistance? And she, yeah. And I took out of my bag my doTERRA wild orange essential oil, and I took the top off it and I said, inhale this deeply. I want you to go slowly and deeply. And within a very, very short time, within 20 seconds, she'd come out of that panic attack because her breathing had changed. Her body had regulated her emotion through changing her physiology. The essential oil helps because when you smell an essential oil, it goes to the limbic part of the brain, which sends signals to the body and tells it what to do. So if I hadn't have had my oil with her, I would have just used that technique with her, the breathing exercise. But we're doing the two together, it had a almost an instant effect, very, very powerful. And so when we regulate our breathing and focus on the breath, it brings that calm. And we can also feel like really go into our hearts and feel the gratitude for everything that we have in our lives. And that really helps us to change our focus. We're focusing on the things that are good in our lives, that are going right, instead of the things and feeling like a victim and like, I'm stuck in my house, we've got this COVID-19 going on, we can't do this, we can't do that, I can't see my family, I can't do that. Because what we're doing then is we're focusing on all the things that we don't want in our life. And what we want to be doing is focusing on the things that we do want in our life. So we can focus on different ways of doing things. So if we're not connected with our family, how can we do that in different ways? How can we have Zoom calls with them? Regular phone calls? A lot of people are saying that families are actually coming closer together during this time because they're actually stopping. They've got time to stop and breathe and have a rest from the normal hustle and bustle of everyday life that's been going on. So we can choose how we think about things. Now, I just want to, I want you to do an exercise with me, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, I feel like really low mood, I feel depressed. And so I want to teach you a technique for how you can feel differently if you're in that state. So the first thing I want you to do is to just sit as you would if you were feeling depressed, and just go into that state. And don't worry, I'm not going to leave you there. So just get into that state and just think about the things that you feel when you're depressed. Just notice what's happening to your head. Is your head up or is it down? What about your shoulders? Are they rounded and forward, or are they up and back? What's happening to your breathing when you're in that state of feeling really depressed? Is it full or is it shallow? Are you breathing from the chest or are you breathing from the belly? Have you got any tension in your body? Where are your eyes? I know my eyes are going downwards, to be in that state of feeling depressed. So we have to do certain things in order to be in that state. Now, I don't want to leave you there. I want to shake it up next. Just shake it off. Okay, we're going to rub that out, but shake it off. Move your body. And now what I want you to do is sit up straight, put your shoulders back, look up at the ceiling, and I want you to put the cheesiest grin on your face. I want to be able to see your teeth. I know I can't see you, but I want to see your teeth. Right? And put your head right up. And then notice, how do you feel in that state? And I want you to think about happy things, about times that are really, really happy. But even in that state where you're just looking up and not thinking about happy times, try and do depression, right? Don't go down again. I want you to do it from this place here. So we're looking up, shoulders back, big grin on our face, and try and feel depressed. And if you can feel depressed in that state, put a little note in the chat box, because every single person that I've ever done this with before, it's not possible to do this because our physiology won't let us do it. So we have to do certain things in order to do depression, and we can change it in a heartbeat if we choose to. Now, everything happens for a reason, I believe. You know, it's one of the things that that I believe, that, you know, that life's up and downs happen to everybody, as I've already said. And one of the things that's really worked for me is to find empowering meanings in all situations when things don't go as we were hoping that they would do. And I'll give you an example of this. Okay, so and it's a personal example from when I was married. You know, I met my husband to be when I was 16 years old, and we got married at 24. We got married at 27 and got 2 beautiful children. And, you know, we had some really, really happy times. And then, you know, when we were in our 40s, we started to sort of drift apart and, you know, have different interests. And then when I was 44, one day I found out that he was planning to leave me for another woman. And I can't tell you how I felt in that moment. You know, it was like, whew, it's like my whole wind had been taken out of my sails. But because of the training that I did, I knew that I had a choice over how I felt about this. And I knew that if I didn't want to react, I wanted to take a step back and consider what was right for both of us. And also to take personal responsibility for him leaving me for somebody else. I'm not being a victim. You know, if he's leaving me for somebody else, he's not happy in the relationship. We're not meeting each other's needs, and we certainly weren't. So we have to take personal responsibility for our actions, because every action leads to a consequence. So I had to come up with an empowering meaning. What empowering meaning can I give to my husband leaving me for another woman? And it took me 2 days to dig really, really deep. And, you know, I was going through the heartbreak, and I was going through feeling rejected and feeling unloved and feeling betrayed and feeling anger and feeling unworthy. You know, I had a lot going on. But the meaning that I gave to him leaving me was that he'd set me free, and I can now become the person that I'm destined to be. So then when I thought about him leaving me, I felt very, very different about it. I felt empowered. I felt curious. I felt a sense of excitement, thinking, oh my goodness, you know, I can now become the person that I'm destined to be. Wow, I didn't even know what that looked like. But I knew that there was something beyond what I was feeling and what I'd been feeling up to then. You see, up to then, it's like there'd been something missing in my life. I didn't know what it was. And when you're in that situation that, you know, you've got that feeling that something's missing and you don't know what it was, you know, you become a searcher. You start searching for your truth and to find that thing that's missing. And that's really hard. But what I did is I went down to Burnley Library and I just set the intention for a book to come to me that would help me. And I was actually in the philosophy and religious books and psychology section of the library, just browsing them. And I'm not kidding you, one book literally jumped off the shelf at me. And I picked it up, and it was called Soulmates, but in understanding the true gifts of intense encounters. And the author is somebody called Sue Mins. And I read this book, and it changed my whole perception about so many things. And what she said in this book is that before we come into the earth plane, we have a soul tribe. And this soul tribe get together and they decide what roles are we going to play out with each other whilst we're here on earth. And our soulmates can be those people that are there to push our buttons and to create havoc in our lives, because they've agreed to teach us that lesson on how to be in a different way, how to react in a different way, how to stop things from repeating. If ever we have lessons that are repeating, it means that we're not getting that lesson. So we need to look within and find out why. What is it that I'm doing that's causing whatever is happening in my reality to be this way? How do I need to be different for things to change? Because it's all about us. It's never about other people. So we have to be different, and then the people around us change. So after reading this book, it was like a light bulb moment. And it was like, wow, yeah, he's my soulmate. He is teaching me about how to stand in my own power, how to take control of myself and personal responsibility, and how to love myself, because I didn't love myself, and I certainly wasn't putting myself on my list of priorities. I was way down there, which a lot of women are, because, like, you know, we're brought up in a society that teaches us that, you know, we put other people before ourselves, and it's selfish to look after ourselves. Well, actually, it's not. If we don't look after ourselves, ladies, we can't look after anybody else. It's like if we're a healer, like I do energy healing. If I don't fill myself up first, I'm not helping my clients, because I'm giving them stale energy. What I need to do is fill myself up, and then the overflow energy goes to my clients. Right? So we have to look after ourselves. So focus, words, empowering meanings, power questions, going into our hearts. You know, there's many different things that we can do to help ourselves. So let's recap. So step number 1, happiness comes from within. Step 2 is let go. Step 3 is watch your words. Step 4 is physiology and focus. And this brings me to step 5, gratitude. When I was in that deep emotional state where my husband had left me and I was going through the grief, it's like losing, like somebody's died when a relationship ends. The grief is still the same. When I was in that state, what I did every night is I used to journal, and I'd sit there in bed and I would cry and cry and cry, and I would let the emotion out and I would release it, and I would write about how I was feeling. And then I would start to focus on all the things that I had to be grateful for in life. And I would write those down. I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful for having a roof over my head. I'm grateful for food on the table. I'm grateful for my family and my friends. I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've got in life. You know, we have so much to be grateful for. But what I realised is that when you're in that really deep emotional state, gratitude melts away every single emotion. It's the antidote to feeling down. So anytime you're in a state that you don't want to be in, as soon as you go into gratitude, completely changes. So I want you to do that now. I just want you to put your hands on your heart and just close your eyes and just go into that heart space. And do some nice, slow, rhythmic breaths. And just focus on your heart and put a little smile on your face. And just to be grateful. Be grateful that we're all here together in this space right now. Be grateful. Just feel your heart beating. Be grateful that your heart is beating. Have you any idea how many souls would do anything to change places with us at the moment? There's billions of souls up there that would do anything to be here at these extraordinary times on earth, as the energy shifts and the old systems crumble away to make way for the new. The truth is coming out, and you know we're creating a world that is based on love and truth. And for chaos to surround us at the moment, order comes out of chaos, and know that everything will be all right, everything will be perfect. Just trust and know that you can create your own reality in every moment. So go into that gratitude and just feel that. So instead of focusing on the negatives, instead of wallowing in self-pity, focus on the positives, focus on what you've got to be grateful for in life. Smile, breathe, and make gratitude a daily ritual. You can start your day with gratitude and end your day with gratitude. Keep a journal and make it part of your life. And that brings me on to step 7. And this is about having a higher purpose. So having a higher purpose, it's about, life's not just about us, is it? It's not just about us. How can we leave the world a better place? How can we make the world a better place just by being here? And you know what? We can do that just by being ourselves. There's other ways that we can do that as well. You know, by being the best example to those around us. To always like showing people how to think in a different way, how to cope with life in a different way, sharing tips and tricks with them. You know, we can help so many people in the world. Doing random acts of kindness with people. You know, I've got a good friend, Johnny McGee, and he has an organisation called Kindness Matters. And, you know, it's about sharing little acts of kindness and encouraging other people to do the same. I love that film called Pay It Forward. If you haven't seen that, it's worth watching. And it's a concept, you know, a young boy comes up with a project that will change the world. And it's all about, I do an act of kindness to you, and I don't want you to pay it back to me. I want you to pay it forward to 3 other people. And then those people don't get repaid for that kindness. They pay it forward to 3 other people. And with the geometric progression that has, a movement's born. And so never ever underestimate the ripple effect. One drop in an ocean can change the consciousness of the whole ocean. One act of kindness can change the consciousness of a whole planet, the ripple effect. So think about, how can you be of service to people? It's not about what can I get, but what can I give? How can I maybe help people in need? It might be a kind word, it might be offering a phone call to somebody. We can all do those little things. And, you know, for me, it's about leaving a legacy in the world. What legacy can I leave? If I can help people to be happier and healthier and wealthier and happy in themselves, loving themselves, well, I've made a difference, even if that's to one person. So those are my 7 steps to happiness. We'll recap. Step 1, happiness comes from within. Step 2 is let go. Step 3 is watch your words. Step 4 is physiology and focus. Step 5 is gratitude. Step 6 is make happiness a habit. We've got, I think I missed that one actually. Make happiness a habit. I missed step 6, so I'm going to go back to that one. So it's good if I've got my notes here. So step 6 is about building that muscle. If you go to the gym once and you're in a workout, you don't get that muscle the first time that you go. But with repetition builds muscle. And so we have to build our happiness muscle. We have to learn to do things in a ritualistic way by building these rituals into our daily routine. So one of the things that you can do is to have a morning routine. You know, think about your power questions, think about your gratitude journal. Maybe get your body moving, you know, change your physiology, have a dance, put some music on that's uplifting, because music can change your emotional state like that. Music has a frequency, a vibration. Everything's frequency in the whole universe. We're frequency, this table's frequency, music's frequency. So when we listen to music that's uplifting, it raises our frequency and makes us feel happier. Now, I don't know if you've ever had an experience of being at a party and somebody will walk in to that room and light it up. It's like a light bulb's gone on and they light up the room and it's really lovely and you look forward to that person being there. But then somebody else comes in and it's, the energy drops. And it's like they're an energy vampire. And an energy vampire, it's just a term that we use for somebody who's like sucking your energy. And some people don't want to be helped. They just want your energy. They're not prepared to take personal responsibility for their life. They just want you to do everything for them. And what they want to do is moan. And what they want to do is bring you down with them. And we have to make choices about our peer group. Like young people especially, you know, when they're sort of in peer groups, they're very influenced by the people around them. And, you know, some people say that we become the sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And so think about that and look at the people around you and look at the people who lift you and be aware of those, and look at the people who bring you down and be aware of those, and then make conscious choices. And we can do that by putting boundaries down. One of the hardest things I ever had to do was learn to say no. I was involved in so many projects, you know, and if everybody would come to me and say, oh, Deborah, can you help with this? Can you help with that? And me, oh, yeah. And that's because I was a people pleaser, right? In order for me to feel better about myself, I had to say yes to other people, because then I would get feedback from them. It's like positive reinforcement that, oh yeah, Deborah, oh wait, she's doing a good job, oh this, that and the other, and your ego takes over and it's like, oh yeah, I'm needed, I'm wanted. But that's people pleasing. And when you actually learn who you are at your core and you become aligned with your purpose and what your vision is and what difference you want to create in the world, I only get involved now with projects that are aligned to my purpose. And that makes life very, very much easier. And I don't have a problem saying no now, but it took a while for me to learn to do that. And so you've got to build that muscle. So what's really useful is to have a happiness buddy. A happiness buddy is someone who will call you out when you're building that muscle and you've not quite, you know, developed it yet. So like if you've got a friend, for example, and you're having regular phone calls with them, you say, look, I'm trying to build this new skill. If you find me doing this, I give you permission to bring it to my awareness. One of the things that my husband and I used to do was, like, we had this really, really unhealthy pattern of bickering, and it was how we spoke to each other. And it's like, we didn't even know any different way to communicate. So when you see people in the streets, or, you know, with the children, the shouting and this, that and the other, they just don't know any different. So we have to show compassion and understanding for them, not judge them. So for me, you know, and my husband, we came to, you know, a realization that we had to change things. It was a very unhealthy pattern that we got into. And so we decided that we were going to use a trigger word, and our trigger word was bananas. So every time we found ourselves going into that unhealthy pattern and bickering, because that's how we were communicating, we got bananas, and then we go, oh, we're there again. And it would break the pattern, like a pattern interrupt in neuro-linguistic programming terms. And that would then enable us to install a new pattern, which is speaking in a calm manner and looking at, you know, what's going on, and learning to communicate in a different way. And then over time, it becomes like second nature. So this is what I mean about making happiness a habit. So get yourself a happiness buddy and focus on happiness. So we've got step 1, happiness comes from within. Step 2, let go. Step 3, watch your words. Step 4, physiology and focus. Step 5, gratitude. Step 6, make happiness a habit. And step 7, which I've already covered, have a higher purpose. If you don't want to be happy, just do the opposite of what I've already said. Simple. Yeah. But what I find is that love is the universal language. When you're coming from that heart space, from a loving space, wanting the best for you and for other people, that's where happiness is created. So I'm going to stop the recording and then we're going to come back and answer some questions. So let me just stop this.